The call came in at 2:47 a.m. A single gunshot, then silence. Sheriff Dalton grabbed his radio, but all he heard was static. When he arrived at the farmhouse 20 minutes later, the front door was wide open. Inside, every clock had stopped at exactly 2:47, and in the kitchen, written in something dark across the wall, "You're next." But here's what made his blood run cold. The handwriting was his own. Few people know what sheriffs really see in the dead of night. The calls that never make it to the news, the cases that get buried in locked filing cabinets, the things that can't be explained by logic or reason. Tonight, I'm sharing 6 true stories from law enforcement officers who encountered something they wish they could forget. Stories that still keep them awake. Stories that change them forever. This is what happens when the badge doesn't protect you from the darkness. Sheriff Marcus Webb had been patrolling Route 9 for 17 years. He knew every curve, every pothole, every house along that lonely stretch of asphalt. So when he saw the woman standing in the middle of the road at 3 in the morning, he knew something was wrong. She wore a white nightgown, bare feet on cold pavement, arms hanging limp at her sides. He hit the brakes, turned on his spotlight. She didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there, staring directly into his headlights with eyes that caught the light like an animal's. Marcus grabbed his radio, called it in. Possible distressed person, mile marker 42. He stepped out of his cruiser, hand instinctively resting on his holster. Not because he felt threatened, but because something in his gut told him this wasn't right. The air felt wrong, too still, too cold for August. He called out to her, asked if she needed help. She didn't respond, didn't acknowledge him at all. He took 3 steps closer. That's when he noticed her feet. They weren't touching the ground. Not quite. Maybe half an inch of space between her soles and the asphalt, like she was suspended, floating. His radio crackled. Dispatch asking for an update. But he couldn't speak, couldn't move, because now the woman was smiling. Not a normal smile. Too wide, stretching her face in ways faces shouldn't stretch. And then she whispered something. He was still 15 feet away, but he heard it clear as day, like she was speaking directly into his ear. "I've been waiting for you, Marcus." His hand went to his gun, drew it without thinking, aimed at center mass, standard procedure, but his finger froze on the trigger because she was moving now. Not walking, gliding across the pavement toward him, feet still hovering, that impossible smile still splitting her face. Before you turn off the lights, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Here at Chills from Reality, every story leaves a mark, one you might not forget. Marcus fired. 3 rounds, center mass, standard protocol. He watched the muzzle flash light up her face, watched the bullets pass clean through her like she was made of smoke. No blood, no impact, just ripples in the air where her body should have been. She kept coming, closer, that smile never faltering. He ran, sprinted back to his cruiser, dove inside, slammed the locks. His training said, stand your ground. His instincts said, survive. Through the windshield, he watched her stop where he'd been standing, watched her tilt her head, slowly, like a curious animal studying prey. Then she opened her mouth, wide, wider than any human jaw could open, and from deep in her throat came a sound. Not a scream, not a voice, something between wind and grinding metal, a sound that made his teeth ache and his vision blur. He threw the cruiser in reverse, tires screaming. When he looked back at the road, she was gone. Just empty asphalt under his spotlight, no footprints, no evidence she'd ever been there, except for one thing. On his windshield, pressed into the glass from the outside, were 2 handprints, small, delicate, still warm to the touch, and they stayed there, even after he scrubbed them, even after he replaced the windshield entirely. On cold nights, those handprints would fog up from the inside, like someone was still pressed against the glass, watching him. Marcus requested a transfer 3 weeks later. He never drove Route 9 again. And when other deputies asked why, he'd just shake his head. Some things you don't talk about, some things you just learn to live with. But every time his radio crackles with static at 3 a.m., he still checks his mirrors, still looks for a woman in white, still remembers that smile. Deputy Sarah Chen thought she'd seen it all. Gang violence, domestic disputes, fatal accidents. 10 years in law enforcement hardens you, makes you rational, skeptical. But what happened in the old Riverside detention facility changed everything she thought she knew about reality. The facility had been abandoned for 6 years. Budget cuts, structural issues, too expensive to maintain, but the county still needed someone to do monthly checks. Make sure squatters hadn't moved in, make sure the building wasn't falling apart. Sarah volunteered. Easy overtime. Walk through empty halls with a flashlight, check the boxes, go home. The first 2 visits were routine. Dust, decay, the smell of old concrete and rust. But on the 3rd visit, something was different. The air felt heavy, oppressive, like walking into a wall of humidity even though the building was dry. She made her way through the cell blocks. A block, B block, everything normal. Then she reached C block. The lights were on. Not all of them, just the ones in cell 17. Flickering, buzzing, casting sickly yellow light into the corridor. But the power had been shut off 6 years ago. She'd checked the breaker box herself on her first visit. Every switch in the off position. No electricity running through this building. Couldn't be. She radioed dispatch, told them about the lights. They told her to investigate, but stay cautious. Possible electrical hazard. She approached cell 17 slowly, hand on her flashlight, the other on her pepper spray. Through the bars, she could see inside. Empty. Just a steel bed frame bolted to the wall, a toilet, a sink. Nothing else. But the light kept flickering. And underneath the electrical buzz, she heard something else. Breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. Coming from inside the cell. She called out. Identified herself. The breathing stopped. Silence. Then, from the darkness in the back corner of the cell, something moved. Not walked, moved, like oil sliding across water, taking shape, forming into something that looked almost human. Almost. It stood 7 feet tall, too thin, limbs too long, head tilted at an angle that made her stomach turn. And where its face should have been, there was just smooth skin. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just blank flesh stretched tight over bone. Sarah's training kicked in. She ordered it to show its hands, to step into the light. Her voice sounded small, hollow. The thing didn't comply. Instead, it pressed itself against the bars, fingers wrapping around the steel, and it started to pull. The metal groaned, bent like it was made of clay. She backed away, drew her pepper spray, aimed. But her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the canister. The thing pushed its head between the bars, impossibly, bones cracking, reforming, squeezing through gaps that shouldn't fit anything larger than a fist. She ran, didn't look back, didn't stop until she was outside, gasping in the parking lot, radio clutched in trembling hands. She called for backup, told them there was an intruder, dangerous, armed. She couldn't tell them the truth. They'd think she'd lost her mind. When backup arrived 10 minutes later, they searched the entire facility. Found nothing. Cell 17 was empty. The lights were off. No sign of forced entry. No footprints in the dust. Nothing. But Sarah knows what she saw, and she refuses to go back. Even now, 3 years later, she still dreams about that faceless thing. Still wakes up feeling like something's watching her from the corner of her bedroom. Still checks the locks twice before going to sleep. Because some cells don't need bars to keep things trapped inside, and some things never really stay locked away. Would you have run, or would you have stayed to face it? Tell me in the comments below. Sheriff Tom Garrett was responding to a wellness check. Elderly woman. Lived alone. Neighbor hadn't seen her in 3 days. Newspapers piled up on the porch. Routine call, the kind he'd done 100 times. He pulled up to the address just after sunset. Small house, overgrown yard, peeling paint. He knocked. No answer. Called out. Silence. He tried the door. Unlocked. Standard procedure. Enter and clear. Make sure the resident is safe. The smell hit him first. Not death. He knew that smell. This was different, sweet, chemical, like old perfume mixed with something medicinal. The living room was immaculate. Furniture covered in plastic, pictures on the walls, family photos from decades ago. Everything frozen in time. He called out again, identified himself. His voice echoed through the empty rooms. He found her in the bedroom, sitting in a chair by the window, facing away from the door. He could see the back of her head, gray hair neatly pinned, floral dress, hands folded in her lap. He approached slowly, announced his presence. She didn't move, didn't respond. He circled around to face her. She was smiling, eyes open, staring at nothing. But she'd been dead for at least a week, maybe more. Her skin was gray, sunken, rigor mortis long since past. But she was sitting upright, positioned like someone had arranged her, placed her in that chair, made her look peaceful. He stepped back, reached for his radio. That's when he heard it. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Crossing from one end of the ceiling to the other. Tom drew his weapon, called out. Sheriff's Department! Show yourself! The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then they started again, coming toward the stairs. He moved into the hallway, aimed at the top of the staircase, waiting. The footsteps descended, one step at a time. Creaking wood. But he couldn't see anyone. Just empty stairs, just shadows. The sound reached the bottom, stopped right in front of him. He could feel body heat, could hear breathing, close enough to touch. But there was nothing there, just air, just the smell of that sickly sweet perfume. His radio crackled, dispatch asking for a status update. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, because now he felt it. Pressure on his chest, like invisible hands pressing against his vest, pushing him backward. He stumbled, fell. His gun clattered across the floor. The pressure increased, pushing him down, suffocating. He couldn't breathe, couldn't call for help. His vision started to blur, darkening at the edges. Then it stopped, released him. He gasped, rolled onto his side, grabbed his gun. When he looked up, he saw her, the dead woman, standing in the bedroom doorway, head tilted, smile wider now, too wide. Stretching her withered face, she raised one hand, pointed at him, and whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." He scrambled to his feet, backed toward the front door. She didn't follow, just stood there, pointing, smiling. He burst outside, nearly fell down the porch steps. When backup arrived, they found the woman still in her chair, right where Tom had first seen her. No signs of movement, no footprints, nothing. But the coroner noted something strange. Her body showed signs of being moved, recently, repositioned, even though she'd been dead for over a week. And in the dust on the floor upstairs, they found footprints. Fresh, leading from the bedroom to the stairs. Size 7 women's shoes, but they stopped halfway down. just vanished, like whoever made them had simply stepped into thin air. Tom never answered wellness checks alone after that, and whenever he drives past that house, which has been empty ever since, he sees something in the upstairs window, a silhouette, watching the street, waiting. And he knows that some calls you can't hang up from. Some visits never really end, they just pause. Until the next person walks through that door. Deputy James Harlow worked the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., quiet hours, empty roads, the kind of shift where you're alone with your thoughts and the static of the radio. He liked it that way, peaceful, predictable. But one October night, dispatch sent him to investigate a disturbance. Old logging road. Someone reported seeing lights, hearing screams, possible illegal activity. James drove out to the coordinates. Miles from town, trees pressing close on both sides, no streetlights, just his headlights cutting through darkness. He found the logging road, barely more than a dirt path. Overgrown, branches scraping his cruiser as he drove deeper into the woods. After half a mile, he saw them, lights, dozens of them, floating between the trees, soft, pale, like candles suspended in midair. He stopped the cruiser, grabbed his flashlight, stepped out. The temperature had dropped. His breath misted in the air. The lights bobbed gently, drifting. He called out, "Sheriff's Department." No response, just the sound of wind through branches. And then, cutting through the silence, a scream, high-pitched, desperate, coming from deeper in the woods. James ran toward it, flashlight beam bouncing, ducking under branches. The lights moved with him, always just ahead, leading him deeper. The scream came again, closer now. He burst into a clearing, empty, just bare ground and those floating lights, circling, slowly, like they were waiting for something. His radio crackled. He grabbed it, tried to respond, but all he got was static. No dispatch, no connection. He was alone. The lights started moving faster, tightening their circle, closing in. He backed toward the tree line. That's when he felt it. Cold fingers on the back of his neck. He spun around. Nothing there, but the touch lingered, ice cold, spreading across his skin. The lights converged, all at once, rushing toward him. He raised his arms, braced for impact. But they passed through him like smoke, like nothing. And in that moment, he saw them. Faces, dozens of faces flickering in the light, twisted, screaming, mouths open in silent agony, reaching for him, clawing at him. He felt their desperation, their fear, their rage. It overwhelmed him, dropped him to his knees. If this story made your heart race, hit that like button and subscribe. Because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. When James opened his eyes, the lights were gone. The clearing was empty. Dawn was breaking through the trees. His radio crackled back to life, dispatch asking for his location. Concerned. He'd been missing for 6 hours. But for him, it felt like minutes. He couldn't explain what happened, couldn't put it into words. When he returned to his cruiser, he found something strange. His body cam had been recording the entire time, but when they reviewed the footage, it was blank, just static. And in that static, if you listened carefully, you could hear them. Voices, dozens of voices, whispering, begging, calling for help. James requested leave the next day. 2 weeks turned into 2 months. He never went back, never wore the badge again. Because some things you encounter in the dark don't let you go. They follow you. They wait. And on quiet nights, when he's alone, he still sees them. Those lights, floating outside his window, patient, watching, reminding him that he's not really free. That he never left that clearing. Not completely, Part of him is still there, still kneeling in the dirt, still feeling those cold fingers on his neck, still hearing those voices. Sheriff Linda Vasquez had been investigating disappearances. 3 people in 6 months, all last seen near the old mining town of Blackwell. Population 12, mostly retirees, people who chose isolation over society. She drove out there on a Tuesday morning, a gray sky, threatening rain. The town was a collection of weathered houses, rusted cars, broken windows. It looked abandoned. But she knew people lived here. She'd seen the census data. She knocked on doors, asked questions. Most residents were cooperative but vague. Yes, they'd heard about the disappearances. No, they hadn't seen anything unusual. One man, elderly, missing teeth, told her to leave before dark. Said things changed after sunset. Wouldn't elaborate, just closed the door in her face. Linda decided to stay. Set up in her cruiser at the edge of town, watched the sun sink below the mountains. The temperature dropped fast. Within an hour, darkness was complete. No streetlights, no porch lights, just blackness. She turned on her spotlight, swept it across the buildings. Everything looked the same, empty, lifeless. Then the doors opened. All of them, simultaneously, every house, every building, swinging wide, revealing darkness inside. She sat up, grabbed her radio. Before she could speak, they emerged. The residents, all 12 of them, walking out of their homes, moving in perfect synchronization, heading toward the center of town, toward the old mining office. She watched through binoculars. They weren't speaking, weren't looking at each other, just walking, mechanical, unified. Linda got out of her cruiser, followed at a distance. The residents gathered around the mining office, formed a circle, and then they started digging. Bare hands, clawing at the dirt. No tools, no explanation, just digging. She approached slowly, called out, asked what they were doing. They didn't respond, didn't acknowledge her, just kept digging. Their hands bleeding, nails breaking, skin tearing. She grabbed the nearest person. An older woman tried to pull her away. The woman's head turned, slowly, unnaturally. Her eyes were white, completely white, no pupils, no iris, just blank. And she smiled. They all smiled, 12 faces turning toward Linda, 12 smiles, identical, too wide, and they spoke in unison. One voice from 12 mouths. "Join us!" Linda ran, didn't look back. Heard footsteps behind her. Fast, too fast for elderly people. She reached her cruiser, fumbled with the keys, got inside, locked the doors. They surrounded the vehicle, pressed their faces against the windows, staring, smiling, breath fogging the glass. She started the engine, threw it in reverse. They didn't move, just watched her go, waving slowly, like they were saying goodbye to an old friend. She reported it. Everything. They sent a team the next morning. Found nothing unusual. The residents denied everything, said they'd been asleep, showed no injuries on their hands, no evidence of digging. The ground around the mining office was undisturbed. No footprints, nothing. They called Linda's report inconclusive. Stress-induced hallucination. She knew better. She'd seen what she'd seen, felt what she'd felt. 2 weeks later, a 4th person went missing. Last seen near Blackwell. Linda didn't volunteer to investigate. Didn't return to that town because she knows what's waiting there. Knows what happens after dark. And sometimes, late at night, she gets a phone call. No number, no caller ID, just breathing. And in the background, faint, she can hear them. 12 voices, singing, calling her name, inviting her back, telling her there's a place waiting for her, in the circle, in the dirt, where they're still digging, still searching, still waiting for the earth to open and show them what's underneath. What's been waiting all these years, patient, hungry, ready to welcome them home. The final story comes from Sheriff Carl Morrison, retired now, living in a small coastal town, far from where it happened. But distance doesn't erase memory, and some cases don't close. They just go quiet, waiting. Carl was investigating a series of break-ins, rural properties, nothing stolen, no vandalism, just signs of entry, doors left open, windows broken. But here's what made it strange. The break-ins only happened when the owners were home. While they were sleeping, they'd wake up to find muddy footprints through their house, wet, fresh, leading from room to room. But nothing taken, nothing disturbed. Just footprints and a smell, salt, seaweed, rot. After the fifth incident, Carl staked out the most recent victim's house, set up across the road, night vision binoculars, thermos of coffee, waiting. Around 2 a.m., he saw movement. Someone walking up the driveway, tall, wearing dark clothes. Hoodie pulled up. He grabbed his radio, called it in. Suspect approaching the residence. He got out of his car. Flashlight ready, called out. Sheriff's Department, stop where you are. The figure stopped, didn't turn around, just stood there, swaying slightly. Carl approached, hand on his weapon, ordered them to show their hands. Turn around, slowly. The figure complied, turned, and Carl's blood went cold because he recognized the face. Dale Hutchins, fisherman, died 3 months ago, drowned. They'd found his body washed up on the rocks, bloated, picked clean by crabs. Carl had identified him personally, had attended the funeral, watched them lower the casket into the ground. But here he was, standing in the driveway, wearing the same clothes he died in, staring at Carl with eyes that were cloudy, lifeless, skin pale, lips blue, water dripping from his hair, from his clothes, pooling at his feet. Carl's mind tried to rationalize. Mistaken identity. Someone playing a sick joke. But he knew. Deep down, he knew. Dale smiled, teeth gray, gums black, and he spoke. Voice wet, gurgling, like words filtered through water. I came back, Carl. We all came back. Carl backed away, hand on his gun, but he couldn't draw, couldn't move, because now he saw them, others, emerging from the darkness, walking up from the beach. Dozens of them, men, women, children, all dead, all drowned, all wearing the clothes they died in. Stumbling, shambling, leaving wet footprints. Trailing seaweed, eyes empty, mouths open, moaning. A sound like wind through underwater caves. They surrounded him, pressed close, cold, dripping, reaching for him with waterlogged hands. He felt their touch, ice cold, damp, leaving wet marks on his uniform. He tried to scream, couldn't. Tried to run, couldn't. Just stood frozen while they touched him, examined him, like they were trying to remember what warmth felt like, what life felt like. Then they turned, all at once, started walking toward the house. Carl found his voice, shouted, ordered them to stop, drew his weapon, aimed. But what do you shoot? What do you stop? They ignored him, walked right past, opened the front door. It wasn't locked. Never was. They filed inside, one by one, disappearing into the darkness. He heard footsteps, creaking floorboards, doors opening, closing, and then silence. When backup arrived, they searched the house, found nothing. No intruders, no footprints, no water. The family was safe, sleeping soundly, unaware anything had happened. But Carl knew. He'd seen them, touched them, smelled them, and he couldn't explain it, couldn't write it in a report. So he didn't. He retired early, moved inland, far from the ocean, far from the dead who walk. But even now, years later, he still dreams of them, still feels their cold hands, still hears that wet, gurgling voice. We all came back, Carl, and one day you will too. The ocean keeps its secrets. And sometimes those secrets don't stay buried. They rise, they walk, they come home, and they're patient. Because the tide always returns, always claims what belongs to it. And when your time comes, when the water calls, you'll walk too. Back to where you drowned, back to where you died, back to the darkness beneath the waves, where the others are waiting, where they've always been waiting, for you. Some nights are darker than others, some calls never end, some cases stay open. These sheriffs carry their encounters like scars, invisible but permanent. They don't talk about them, don't share them at the station, don't write them in reports, but they remember every detail, every sound, every moment of pure, absolute terror. When the badge meant nothing, when training failed, when reality bent, and something on the other side looked back. If this story gave you chills, leave a like and stay in the dark with us, because the stories never stop. The encounters continue, and somewhere tonight, another sheriff is answering a call, driving down a dark road, walking into an empty house. And they don't know yet, don't understand that some things can't be explained, can't be stopped, can't be forgotten. They only know that their radio is crackling, their flashlight is dimming, and something in the darkness is waiting, watching, ready to teach them what fear really means, ready to show them that the uniform doesn't protect you, that courage has limits, that some nights survival is the only victory. The forest is silent, too silent. The hallway is dark, too dark. The call comes in, no voice, just breathing. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, between thoughts, between the moment you lock your door and the moment you close your eyes, they're there. The things sheriffs see, the things they can't unsee, the things that follow them home, that wait in mirrors, that whisper from empty rooms, that prove beyond all doubt that we are never truly alone, and the darkness is never truly empty. It's crowded, full, watching, patient, waiting for the moment you let your guard down, the moment you forget to check the locks, the moment you convince yourself it was all in your head, because that's when they come back. That's when they remind you that some stories don't end. They pause, they wait, they return, and they never, ever let you forget.